So many of you know the county commissioners already. We've had the opportunity to have them in attendance at some of our earlier Oregon City Business Alliance forums. They are really excellent at attending and getting as much information as we can. And I can't let you know how much we at the Oregon City Business Alliance appreciate the service that not only the county commissioners do, but all of our elected officials do. We know it's a tireless job. There's a lot of meetings in the evenings. Sometimes you can run into confrontations with citizens that have different points of view. And it takes a certain breed of individual that looks forward to being a part of that process. And great leaders create great results. And I think I can say on behalf of everyone sitting here, we have great leaders in the 5 county commissioners we have sitting here. And I personally am very appreciative of what all of you do. So if we could give them a hand. All right, so we have Mark Scholl, Martha Schrader, Paul Savas, Ben West, and County Commission Chair Tootie Smith. So I've got a couple questions here already. Oh, before I do that, I'm going to read you what the Oregon City Business Alliance vision statement is, and some of you have never been here before. The Oregon City Business Alliance is a group of businesses and individuals working to encourage, promote, and support a positive and sustainable economic environment in Oregon City. In addition to that, our purpose, getting a little old here. Our purpose is to attract, build, and keep business. Our mission, the Oregon City Business Alliance, will promote and advocate for a diverse, healthy, and growing economy in Oregon City. We proudly celebrated our 10-year anniversary of strong and effective voice for business and development last year. So we've been doing this for quite a while. We support the North End Trail and retail housing projects. We weigh in on land use and transportation projects such as I-205 tolling, Clackamas Park Master Plan. We've written letters to the editor with a business perspective on Oregon City and other initiatives in our local region. We keep members informed on plans to move the county courthouse and its impact on downtown. And we regularly invite representatives from the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, as well as representatives from neighboring cities. Earlier this year, we had the mayor, the city council president, and the city manager from West Linn as our speakers to go ahead and give us an update on all the events and activities that are taking place over there. So we're here to be a voice for you. So with that being said, I'm going to open it up to questions. Any other cards? Pardon? Oh. Sorry, we're going to have opening remarks.
Thanks, Kat. We can go to questions if you don't care. No, that's all right. I'll start off today. I want to thank everyone for having the Board of County Commissioners here and listening to what you have to say. We each have a topic we're going to discuss. I'll kick it off with land use and farming. We strive to take advantage of our employment lands to retain and attract businesses and new industries. We want to support companies that pay good wages and support families. However, with metro urban reserves and rural reserves designation, it makes it impossible to expand or redesignate our land base for opportunities that businesses seek. Recently, Metro basically stole 500 acres of designated lands from Clackamas County and gave them to a developer in Washington County to build homes. What did we get in return? Nada, nilch, absolutely nothing, despite our efforts to reach out and negotiate a designation of land in Clackamas County. This next year, we'll be looking at strategic opportunities to position Clackamas County in a way that we will not be passed over again. Our staff continually seeks opportunities to help businesses and expand and stay in Clackamas County. Commissioner Schrader will speak more on Economic Development's New Business Opportunity Grant just a little bit later. Looking to our real lands, Clackamas County has a tremendous amount of farmland. The county's tourism department, known as Oregon's Mount Hood Territory, supports local farmers in many ways. Recently, the tourism department co-sponsored a project to determine the economic impact of agritourism in the Willamette Valley. In agritourism, producers combine farming with some aspects of tourism. Agritourism can take the form of farm direct sales, education, outdoor entertainment, and recreation. How many have been to a farm stand lately? Can I just see a hands? Christmas Tree Farm. So you know what I'm talking about. Thank you for supporting the great agritourism in our county. Now, let me tell you what's really important about that. Our tourism department, of course, has identified agritourism as a key economic component. Many of our farms produce an agritourism product. Clackamas County has over 100 on-farm winery experiences, including seasonal events, farm stands, U-Pick, Christmas trees, and more. And the average size of a farm in Clackamas County is only 45 acres, and that means it's probably family-owned. State laws, however, are a barrier to the value-added farm products that many farmers seek. While over 20% of the farms in the Willamette Valley offer agritourism products, many encounter issues. State zoning laws in Oregon are not favorable to this kind of economic opportunity. As a fourth-generation farmer myself, some years are profitable and some are not. When one considers the enormous costs to own, operate, and invest in farms, I believe the continued ability to feed ourselves is in jeopardy. For instance, I own a hazelnut farm, and you've heard me talk about that before. My ability to process the nuts and sell them in a packaged product to consumers is illegal, and that's very sad. My zoning is ag forestry. I can plant the trees and care for them. I can pick them, but I must transport them to a co-op for sale. The co-op takes 80% of the profit that should go to the farmers. This impossible scenario is contrary to the success of value-added farming, and the laws must change. Commissioner Martha Schrader and I are dedicated to finding partners in the 2005 legislative session to initiate legislation that is called Value-Added Farm Products, where farmers may legally sell and be allowed to process, distribute, and educate consumers about the goods for sale. In fact, we're already working on the concept, and we are developing a list of supporters on this. Furthermore, the survey tells us that farmers take up the agritourism concept for, one, an increased income, especially in the years where you don't make a lot of money, create a sense of community, educate visitors about farming, and share farm products and others. Based on the survey findings, farmers offering agritourism can significantly boost their revenues and their profits. Diversifying their income sources in this way protects us against the downturns that normally come with farming, and it feeds our people. Agritourism has the potential for profitable business, and this Board of County Commissioners is dedicated to that. And there's a whole lot more work to be done on this issue. And I hope we can become partners in supporting farmers and ensuring successful farms exist for generations to come. It was a pleasure to speak to you today, and now I will introduce Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, good morning and thank you. I'd like to speak to you today about our forest resources in Clackamas County. We are blessed with probably the fourth largest stand of timber in the state, with 273,000 acres managed by the U.S. Forest Service, 93,000 acres managed by the Bureau of Land Management, 10,000 managed by Oregon Department of Forestry, and then we have 4,300 acres of Clackamas County managed forest, and the rest of our forest lands are held by private and corporate entities. In 1990, the spotted owl issue resulted in the Northwest Forest Plan harvest levels on federally managed lands to be drastically reduced. And recently, we have been fighting with the Oregon Department of Forestry on their habitat conservation plan, which is an overlay over the 745,000 acres in Oregon managed by the Oregon Department of Forestry. And the habitat conservation plan overlay is a no-cut area that is reserved for endangered species. This recent approval by the Oregon Board of Forestry will result in that 745,000 acres, 20% reduction in harvest. Now the problem is that we are already unable to harvest the amount of timber that equals a growth rate in our forest because of federal and state restrictions on harvest. And I'm very concerned that if we don't fight tooth and nail to preserve the harvest levels we have now, we are going to be in a situation where we could lose our last two primary mills in Clackamas County, that being Interfor and RSG. We also have some 6 other secondary manufacturing mills, and these provide hundreds of jobs to people in Clackamas County. And without the harvest levels being maintained, we stand to lose some of these important jobs in this very important industry. It's very sad that since we're blessed with this tremendous resource in Clackamas County, we have we might be only the 3rd or 4th largest timberland county, but the quality of our timber in Clackamas County is considered to be some of the best in the world. And we need to harvest it to provide those jobs, to reduce the amount of fuel in our forests that we saw burned in 2020. A selective harvest is a very important thing. So the other thing I want to mention to you is that after the 1990 Spotted Owl Endangered Species Act issue, Congress passed the Secure Rural Schools Act, and that was intended to provide money to counties and rural communities that at one time provided jobs, paid for schools, police, and fire in our rural forest communities. We didn't appreciate that. It would never duplicate the vibrant economies that those communities had, but it has helped us sustain schools and roads, police, and fire since 1990. Our county just received our last Secure Rural Schools payment just this month. It's over. Now what? So I'll end this by saying that if we don't fight tooth and nail to preserve what we have, in fact, increase harvest to keep our industries and our people, our communities vibrant, we're going to lose it to bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. who have never even been here to visit our forests. So I encourage all of you to help us fight this decrease in harvest. Contact Senator Merkley and Wyden, and as the Habitat Conservation Plan goes to the federal government for approval by next year, let's see if we can't do something to stop that reduction in harvest. Thank you very much for your time.
So which way are we going?
Who's next?
I don't know.
Martha, go ahead.
Want me to go ahead? Oh, hi, everybody. I guess I'm next. I'm Commissioner Martha Schrader, and thank you all for being here. Oh, thanks, Mark. Thank you for being here today. I'm here to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is economic development, which I couldn't really be doing without the stellar Laura Edmonds, who's in the audience here. Yay, Laura. Let's go ahead. And And I just want to say with the North Clackamas Chamber of Commerce, I know you have Jay now, so now we have two stellar people, and I know that John is here from Oregon City as well, and there's Jay. All of you folks, we're going to look forward to continuing to work with. One of the things I just want to mention is that I have been going around the county visiting our business recovery centers, and that was where we funneled CARES dollars. And I think maybe some ARPA dollars to our local businesses, our local chambers during the pandemic to give them bridge dollars so they could stay afloat during that time. And now they are moving into being called business resource centers. So one of the things I've been working on is seeing what might be available at the federal level. I don't know the answer to that yet. For dollars from the Department of Commerce to see if there are funds available to keep this particular program going. So that's just something that I am personally trying to figure out. I chair the Community Economic and Workforce Development Committee at the National Association of Counties, and I have that staff that helps me there, as well as the staff that helps me here looking at that. But let me talk a little bit more about our local Office of Economic Development, and just talked about what we did do and we are now continuing to do. We exist to provide leadership, market research, planning, and more to businesses so they can locate or expand their operations here in Clackamas County. So just last week, we as the County Commission Board, and I thank my colleagues for this, approved a proposal for a new workforce development grant program. We're excited about it and believe it will have a real impact. And I will give kudos to Chair Smith for this. She was one of the folks that suggested that we do this for the community college, and it was so successful, we're going to be continuing it. So using a portion of state lottery funds, these grants will fund scholarships for students enrolled in career and technical education courses at Clackamas Community College. They are pursuing careers in industries such as agriculture, timber, healthcare, manufacturing, automotive, utilities, business management, renewable energy, and information technology. We also work with Oregon Tech. Once these kids get through that community system, they have opportunities to get advanced degrees at one of the biggest Oregon Tech pieces that we have in this county, and it's part of the university system that has the greatest return on investment for kids getting educated and getting jobs out in the universe, and also older learners and older adults that are changing careers. So we invested $70,000 through a program last year for scholarships. It supported 58 students in 22 accredited programs, and this year we're setting aside $100,000 for this effort. And I'm also happy to share that part of that dollars can also be put towards child care support. One of the things that we are finding out, and we're hearing this directly from our traded sector businesses and our smaller businesses, that not having adequate child care is a barrier to the workforce. So we're continuing to work on that to see if we can expand child care capacity in our county. Just yesterday, I had an opportunity to meet with Housing and Urban Development at the state and federal level, and they informed us in our commission that basically they have dollars to put towards child care and when we are building our housing capacity. So that is another thing I hope that we will take a look at in the pipeline, and we'll be able to integrate that housing with child care. It's a magic thing to have happen so people can get back to work, the businesses can succeed, and parents don't have that barrier to work. There's more that we're doing for the business community besides that. Let me talk a little bit about ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act. We provided, ARPA provided federal emergency relief funding to local governments. Clackamas County received about $81.2 million. That was a first for counties, quite frankly, across the nation, and that was because the National Associations of Counties, all of us got together at the national level and lobbied very hard to make sure that it didn't just go to states, but counties, plural, across the United States were able to get that dollars. So I'm really proud that we got our $81.2 million directly. Federal regulations detailed how the money was used, but we provided $1.3 million to cover state-mandated restaurant inspection licensees fees. We obligated more than $735,000 for a workforce training program for unemployed or underemployed workers to help them develop skills so they could rejoin the workforce. We invested over $10 million in broadband access infrastructure, and we call that the Clackamas Broadband Exchange. We seek to expand and cover nearly 1,400 additional households, allowing more reliable connectivity for residents to telecommute, conduct virtual health appointments, educational reasons, and more. And actually, now we allocated $4.8 million for the Fairgrounds multipurpose facility at the Fair and Event Center in Canby, and I know that, again, Chair Smith was a real champion of that. Why is that important? It's not just for the fair folks. When we had to deal with the wildfires, the fairground became a central area to not only just relocate people from the rural areas, but the livestock as well. And we had to get people out of those areas fast, quickly, with our emergency management, get them somewhere. So now we will have a building there that is newer, is really going to do the work that we need to do. It can be a center for all kinds of emergency opportunities that our residents and their pets and their livestock face. So I look forward to answering your questions today, but I'm going to make one last thing that I think you all ought to know. We just decided the other day that we were also going to put $600,000 of our lottery funds towards business expansion, growth and workforce development, retention expansion and workforce development. And we're going to be doing a grant program with awards based on a business's unique needs to establish, maintain, or grow a business in our county. The awards will not exceed $100,000. And grants will help businesses to support capital and capacity improvements, support workforce growth and development, leverage other funding through matched grants, and support our business retention in Clackamas County. And we just approved all of this, but it's really thanks to Laura Edmonds, who really did an analysis to see what the gaps were for our businesses in this county, to see exactly what they needed and how we could help them move forward and succeed. So thank you for allowing me to be here and talk about some of my favorite stuff. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Martha. We appreciate it as much as well. Believe me, we do. We truly do. So why don't we just keep moving this direction? Paul, we'll let you go next.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us. Probably know what I'm going to talk about. I believe I speak for my colleagues when I say we're really pleased that the governor put a pause on 2 layers of the tolling cake. And I'll talk about the cake in a little bit. And just real quick, I mean, I'd love to have everyone stand up that's either staff or part of the cities that advocated, voted for, and helped build the coalition that was successful. I know who you are. Stand up. Come on. Stand up. Without the coalition, without the elected city members of West Linn, Oregon City, and all the other cities, Gladstone, without your support, this never would have happened. We lobbied, we worked hard, and I think we all owe ourselves a congratulations. So thank you for your support, and also thank the Oregon City Business Alliance for hosting an event in which you asked me to speak to, and we had ODOT here as a co-speaker to help get the word out and educate people what was going on. As you know, we've been against this project since 2017 when the bill passed, almost 7 years ago, frankly. We've taken a number of actions over the period of time. It's been very complex through all these legal processes that take place in all the different jurisdictions, state, metro, county, cities. I mean, it's a lot of work, and fortunately we had a good team put together. The most recent thing you probably saw, for some of you who saw some of the news articles, when the governor first made the announcement about a month or so ago, we were reluctant to really say, hey, pressure's off, we can relax. It wasn't the case at all because only one layer of the cake was canceled. That was called the RMPP, which was tolling all of 205 and all of I-5 in Oregon. But yet, a lot of work on that hadn't even been developed. We hadn't even made a case for that, so much as we spent all our time making the case for this I-205 section near the Abernathy Bridge that affects West Linn, Oregon City, and all the surrounding communities. So that was not a big deal, but recently the cancellation of the environmental assessment work took the pressure off us a little bit. But believe me, as you all drive, when I'm coasting, I take my foot off the gas and off the brake, but my foot is over the gas pedal. I'm ready to press down, and we're ready to go should this come back, and we suspect it will come back. So this ain't over yet. We'll continue the fight. And I know my colleagues, I want to thank my colleagues for not only voting and supporting, for all the staff and the time and the consultants we hired and everything else to make this happen, but kudos to my colleagues. They were a big part of this. Of course, I want to thank all the local businesses that they were a big part of this. We had the state put on, the special subcommittee put on forums in the metro region area, 5 total, I believe, and the outpouring and the people that showed up in the Clackamas County ones, Wilsonville and Gladstone, was huge. So some of you in this room were there. Thank you for your work on that. What my other point here? So I talked about the 2-layer cake. So the one layer we were fighting, I kind of mentioned already, was this toll on I-5 over the Abernathy Bridge. And we have diversion. It's been a safety issue for Clackamas County for years because people currently, today, especially right around 3 o'clock at rush hour and early in the morning, are diverting through Stafford, through Wilsonville, through Oregon City, Canby, and they're crisscrossing. And when I first came on the commission, all I got was, being the transportation person, a lot of feedback from people talking about the wrecks in front of their homes and people dying and cars flipping over and everything else. And so I recognize that reading the accident reports, people saying, well, I was stuck in traffic, so I decided to take a shortcut, and I didn't know the road, and I drove into a ditch and flipped my car. Those are the kinds of things that are affecting us. Willamette Falls Drive or Main Street in Oregon City are impacted at rush hour. It's an economic killer, the diversion is, and to add a toll on top of 205 would have just exacerbated that. Our worst nightmare would have came true, which is just more diversion than they already have today. So I just want to read one part of the governor's language, just so you're all aware what it actually said. That is, the governor's letter to the ODOT said, delay additional expenditures for implementation of tolling on I-205 to the future, when the legislature can further evaluate and provide clear direction on tolling. So it ain't over. That's the exact language from the governor. So again, we're ready and to step on the gas when we need to. And again, I just want to thank everyone for all the work that they did to make this happen. The big issue now, though, we're working on really hard, and we started 2 years ago as a coalition with the Association of Oregon Counties and the League of Oregon Cities, working on transportation fundings to fill the gap because the cost of transportation maintenance or projects has skyrocketed. It's double, essentially, what it used to be. So everything costs more. And to maintain our roads, our potholes, and everything else, because of inflation, we need more resources. So in 2025, next year, when the legislature meets in the long session, the state's working on and the region's working on putting together and helping to put together a transportation package to help that. So you'll hear more about that. Gas tax dollars are not going as far, and we're very concerned. The good news, one of the brighter projects is the Sunrise Corridor visioning process is underway. For those of you who know, it's been over 40 years since we've been trying to move that project forward. I see Renata in the back. She was part of the economic development team way back, and she was instrumental working with Dave Sr. and others to move that project, and it's got a great history. Good to see you, Renata. And I just want to say that Jamie Stasny in the back is leading that effort, and we're working with our cities and everyone else. As you know, Happy Valley is exploding. A lot of cities in Clackamas County are exploding, and this corridor is so important to us economically. It backs up for, I don't know, I'm sure some of you know this, but I travel to Gresham quite often, and when I come back in the afternoon, it's not unlike, sometimes it's 5 or 6, 7 miles of backup between 282nd all the way out Boring area, all the way in, is bumper to bumper almost all the way in. And we have the same thing at 4 o'clock going out to Damascus. So we need to get that project completed. We got phase 1 underway. We're working on phase 2, and we're going to cross our fingers that we'll be moving that project forward. So pay attention, and again, appreciate the support. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Paul. And we do appreciate all your efforts on tolling. I remember hosting that forum when we had the representative from ODOT and you on the panel, and they did not want to acknowledge their deficiencies and lack of citizen outreach, but we made them very much aware of it at that event. And obviously, as you said, we're not across the finish line yet. We only have a pause, that it is scheduled to be on the agenda in the long session next year. But we're not going anywhere. We're not leaving. We're going to fight that battle. And I know you're going to be leading the cause.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Ben, last but not least, you got the floor.
Thank you. Just before I dive into my remarks, just sitting here listening to the reports and seeing all of you that I've gotten to know over the last year and a couple months, there's a lot to be proud of in Clackamas County. I really love living here and getting to serve y'all in your communities. It's been an amazing opportunity, and it's reflective to go back and see from when I was able to take office last January to where we are today. And there's so much for all of us to be proud of that we did together and we did with you. You heard Commissioner Scholl talk about us fighting for local livability and rights in our rural communities and forestry issues that have perplexed this county for far too long, and making sure that we're doing what we can to have safe, livable communities in our forest lands and to protect those precious lands that I remember my grandparents logged and forested and lived in those communities, and my family before that, and many of us have that same story. It's an Oregon story. Martha Schrader has been just a powerhouse and an influencer in business development, and also using and partnering with the business sector to be able to make sure kids are taken care of and families have those basic needs met in our communities. She's been an amazing advocate, and I've learned so much from her, and also the ability for her partnership in health, housing, and human services. I don't think we would have had the outcome in the tolling fight if we didn't have Commissioner Savas on this commission. And it was all of us, 16 cities in our history. I don't know the last time they galvanized together to take on a giant ODOT, the Goliath behemoth pressing forward with a threat against our community. And we're winning that fight at a local level. We're flexing our local muscle together as neighbors in unison, and we're winning that. And then we are leading the entire state on dealing with the chronic and persistent crisis of homelessness and addiction. Clackamas County is that right now. But there are a few people in this room that must be acknowledged that are doing this work every day. I think I see loved one here, Father's Heart. Stand up, stand up. Stay standing. Nope, you're not done. You inspire us to be better public servants. You do the work every single day with compassion and dignity, and you help people feel inspired in their darkest moments to achieve great things and to become healed. And you guys are vessels of healing, and this county needs your work to continue, and this board supports your work. And thank you for working with that population and those of our neighbors that struggle every day. It's your work that is making these numbers happen and that are changing our state and inspiring beyond the borders of Clackamas County. I want to thank you personally. And Clackamas County is getting noticed. Tonight in British Columbia, Clackamas County will be highlighted in a documentary on how to deal with a local area that has had such a chronic and persistent crisis in homelessness and addiction, and what did decriminalization look like in your community, and how did you still achieve the outcomes you did in that environment. British Columbia is actually considering a whole decriminalization, following the old Oregon 110 model. And they came to Clackamas County and they said, how are y'all doing this? What, you guys are in the Portland metro area and we hear all this other news, but then there's this bright hope and bright spot, and it seems to be coming out of Clackamas. And so they sat down and interviewed us, but that's not the first time that's happened. News outlets across this nation, out of the United Kingdom, have noticed the work that we've done in Clackamas. In local media, the evidence is in, the numbers have been counted, and we are really tackling this issue in a way that nobody else is seeing as they continue to deal with the numbers increasing in this area. Clackamas County is going in the right direction and seeing them decrease. We're helping more people, we're making a better impact, and I'm proud of what this board is doing. How did that start? We knew we were gonna get a bunch of tax dollars from the SHS measure. And we also knew that this thing was exploding and getting out of control, so we took a step back And we needed to make sure we set forth a vision and a framework and a worldview and an ethos that allowed us to be directive in our purpose. And we did that by basically establishing a recovery-oriented system of care, holding everybody accountable to that, and using that worldview to direct our actions. And it started with a recovery-oriented system of care where we all believe that from a grassroots level, we are all stakeholders in dealing with this crisis. So that means business is a stakeholder, faith community is a stakeholder, your electeds are a stakeholder, the teachers are a stakeholder. Everybody has a stake in building a healthy community, and we are all responsible for a healthy community. And we realized that much of the community wasn't healthy, and we needed to change how we addressed it, and it started with a recovery-oriented system of care and building that network out. In Clackamas County basically said our vision and ethos is that we believe that everybody who needs treatment and care and housing deserves it, and that we believe that sobriety and recovery is actually the end goal and it's possible. We don't want to see people traditionally just in this hamster wheel of despair where they don't ever really get out of this cycle and they're kind of trapped and there's no hope for them. We wanted to make sure as a community we built out that continuum of care, and we believe that that's possible. We also think that tackling this issue head on directly impacts business. When you see businesses want to invest in healthy communities. They don't want people and their staff and their workforce having to deal with people sleeping in their stoops of their business and the doorways. They don't want to have to deal with the chaos that could come along with that. They don't want high criminality. They don't want to have to deal with property crimes that are associated with that. They want safe communities, and so we believe it directly impacts business. Then we kept going, and we said we got to get out of the Oregon echo chamber. There's a lot not working in here. There's a lot in Oregon not working, out of Salem, out of Multnomah County, out of the Northwest. And so what we did is we began to look for, I want to call them little pockets of excellence in places where they were having real success in this crisis, and we convened a summit. And we brought in thought leaders and world leaders from all over to come in and say, let's get together for a weekend and let's plan real policy that will make a real difference. So we had a recovery summit. It was highly successful. We had people with lived experiences. We had local powerhouses like Dr. Mendenhall, Dr. Tangay, one of the leading pain and addiction specialists in North America. We had an advocate out of Houston, Texas. We had all these people come in and convene as like, how can we tackle and be tailored to the needs of Clackamas County? Out of one of the big policy decisions, I'll bring it up again today, it was recently announced, Clackamas County is looking to build a world-class multi-acre campus recovery summit to help people from street-level homelessness get the care they need through the entire care continuum to sobriety and self-sufficiency and healed in our community. Building real assets that get people healed. Visionary big things coming from not just our resolution and who we are as a recovery summit, but also out of the work we had done prior. We wanted to actually not like throw a noodle at the wall and see if it's stuck and see maybe if we could just spend more public money that will work. We wanted to be encompassing and mindful in our approach and working with our partners like Father's Heart and Love One and others to get that job done, and we're doing it. This board believes that the jail or the emergency room, I have been that nurse on that shift all night in the emergency room. It is true. We do not want this population endlessly going in and out of our jail system or the emergency room. We don't believe it's the right place for people experiencing a drug overdose or behavioral issues related to drugs or behavioral needs. This crisis and intervention services and long-term supports, a continuum care is what is needed. We've had real success here. Last year, we served more than 19,000 people through our homeless prevention and housing programs. And this number I'm about to give you is shocking, but it goes way beyond any point in time count because we're legitimately in the communities in such a meaningful way. We're able to track this very specifically. Homelessness in our county has decreased by 65% in the last 4 years since the passage of the SHS dollars, while our surrounding counties and the rest of the state has seen that number increase. But we just did it the Clackamas way. We did it a little differently, and we're getting better results. Using the Metro Supportive Housing Service dollars last year, we were able to place 665 people into permanent housing, prevent over 600 evictions, provide close to 700 people with rental assistance, serve close to 800 people through emergency and traditional shelters in the Veterans Village. And we're just looking to be incredibly comprehensive in our approach. And we're not done. Now, this issue is a little perplexing because we have the supportive housing service tax in the measure, right? And Metro's now talking about wanting to not have that sunset. They want to talk about making it a forever tax. And I believe we still haven't, even though Clackamas County is far ahead of our regional partners in like making sure we're getting these supportive services up, we still haven't proven to the voters yet that we are ready to ask for that. We need to be responsible in our approach and show that we're making a meaningful dent before we go back to y'all and ask for a little bit more. And so we're gonna look at that from a county perspective and like how we want to address that and work with Metro and the rest of the region. But this, what is it, 8 years, 10 years? How far are we into this?
We're
It's
3 years into
We're 3 years into a 10-year tax, yeah. So there's more to come on that. Pay attention to like what's gonna happen, you know, after the supportive housing service tax is sunsetted, or what the plan is moving forward. But I want to commit to you and let you guys know that our county is committed to fighting for every one of our residents, no matter where they live or who they are, and making sure that they have the dignity of sobriety, somewhere to live, and a community to embrace them. And that's our commitment to you. And I think that the numbers are clear, and we have a lot to be proud of in Clackamas County. And people are noticing. So good job to y'all.
Thank you, Ben. We really appreciate your background and all the personal information that you're able to bring to your focus and your passion when it comes to care for people. And I think one of the things we can appreciate about each one of the Clackamas County commissioners is they all have a deep passion for different causes. They're not all the same, where everybody is kind of focusing on creating business opportunities or creating homeless facilities. Each one of them comes to the table with a different background, a different skill set, but the desire to accomplish something. And we're very honored, privileged to have you sitting in those chairs today. Well, with that being said, I've got some blue cards here. So why don't we go ahead and get started with those? And if anybody else has some questions they'd like to submit, please feel free to hold them up, and we'll send someone by to pick them up and get them read. So I've got a number of questions on the status of the courthouse. Obviously, Oregon City being the county seat, that's kind of an important component of our downtown vitality. I know the new courthouse is moving along. I believe everything's on budget, everything's on schedule, which is an accomplishment when you're doing construction of that magnitude. But does the county have any specific plans in place yet as to how they'd like to see the existing courthouse transition into private hands? And then maybe touch a little bit on the financing structure of the new courthouse, because a lot of people are kind of wondering, well, why are you leasing it instead of building it? Don't go into a lot of detail, but just was there a financial reasoning behind that? But let's start out with the first one. Do you have any specific plans for the old courthouse?
Well, thanks, Ken. This Board of County Commissioners has not had an open session on the discussion of the old courthouse, and it's being teed up. We'll start next Tuesday in issues and updates. If the board agrees, and we'll schedule it for a policy session to get all the commissioners' opinions. We've all been talking to people in the community. I just need to say the new courthouse won't be finished until May of 2025, and then the move will take place. It'll probably take until August to have everybody moved out of the old courthouse. So we're looking at August of 2025 before we can even go in and do an assessment as to the condition of it. We're not sure what kind of upgrades it's going to take, or seismic abilities, or foundation work, and we can't do that till it's empty. You can't take construction people in the middle of court and through judges' chambers while they're trying to process criminals and conduct trials. That just isn't feasible. So at that time, we'll hire somebody to come in and take a look at it. And what I've been telling people, because they say, oh, I have a restaurant that went out of business and they want to locate in the old courthouse, and I thought that was so cool. I have a personal preference, and it's just one commissioner speaking here today. I would like to see it go back into private hands for development of multi-use and get back on the tax rolls. There's a couple other big developments in the area. One, we have the old Blue Heron Mill site at Tumwater Village that the Grand Ronde Tribe has purchased, and they are developing, and the visioning plan on that, as Martha Schrader and I sat through, is tremendous. So we would like to have some economic activity that partners with that. Also, Willamette Falls Locks across the river, I'm on that committee, the state-appointed committee, to get that reopened, and we're on track to do that. We've got a lot of help from state and federal partners and opening the locks, and that will create river traffic, and that will create more commerce up the river. So I think at the future, anything that we do needs to enhance the current businesses on Main Street, the Tumwater Village, and the opening of the locks across the river. Now, that's just my opinion, but I'm sure the commissioners have opinions on that too, but we will be starting discussions on that. Mayor McGriff from Oregon City has asked to sit down with me. She wants to know what our plans are, and frankly, we have not set any plans on that. We need to make a decision and have a public discussion on that. Thank you.
I would just like to add to that, that I do think it's going to be very important for us to work with the local business community here, to see what they would like to have for the downtown as well. So I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues and having that conversation happen as well, because it is in Oregon City. We want to make sure the community really is getting what they need and what they want as we can all move forward together. But I really do concur with what Chair Smith said. I think that getting it on the private docket would be one potential. I do know that Milwaukee is working on one of their older buildings now and revitalizing it. So let's see what happens with this. But.
Okay, anybody else? All right. In regards to housing, and I know I've talked with Tootie and others on the county commission, Metro did authorize the transfer of several hundred acres in the Oregon City Park Place Concept Plan, as well as out towards Damascus, allowed the transfer of that land to go ahead and go to the west side for the River Terrace project. I believe it's in Tigard. And we got nothing in return. And I know that the Clackamas County Commissioners put up a fight to maybe get some industrial land brought over here. Even if we couldn't replace it with other residential land, how about throwing us a bone with some industrial land? So recognizing that we didn't get any of that, what is the county's plan to go ahead and maybe allocate some of the funding that you're getting from the federal government to go ahead and create more industrial land? Or is there a way that you can rezone certain properties under the governor's goal to create more affordable housing? Can that also go hand in hand with industrial land rezoning? Has the county explored how they might be able to increase affordable housing in our communities?
I'll take a shot at it, and then any commissioner can answer. There was a new House bill passed. It's called 4063. And that does allow the tri-counties, and basically it's just for Clackamas and Washington County, to take a look at doing exactly that. But it doesn't go into effect until 2 years. So why pass a law but you can't do anything for 2 years, right? To me, that's nonsensical. We are beefing up our economic development office. And we talked about Laura Edmonds and the grants that we approved are going out the door. What we didn't say is we're going to do I don't know if you want to call it a visioning statement or a land use study or whatever, to take a look at what lands we have available in Clackamas County and what are our obstacles to developing those lands. One is Metro, and one is our land use system. We just can't take a magic wand and change decades-old zoning to get more industrial lands. Now, Metro has told us, and has told me personally, you guys just aren't ready. Well, why aren't we ready? Because we won't let you be ready. Well, what do we need to be ready? You need to study. Okay, you collect the SCT tax, the excise tax that builders pay. Well, where is it? Let's do a study. Well, what do you want to study? Well, we want to study availability. No, I don't think so. You're not going to do that. You're going to study what we want you to study. And that's exactly how these conversations go. And that's why I talked about that in my opening statement today. But because we have saved our lottery dollars over the years, we have put aside money to do our own study. And we're going to do it the Clackamas way. And I've also developed on the side a group of very influential landowners, developers, and business leaders. We'll be sitting down next month, and I will be listening to them. What does the county need to do to make you have more land for housing, businesses, and jobs? And I'm not talking about subsidized housing for the homeless. I'm talking about houses that you and I can afford to buy. And that dream is fast escaping all of us, and it's very scary. So as my tenure continues, if I'm lucky enough to be reelected, I'm here to tell you today I've dedicated myself not only for the enhancement of farming, so we can feed ourselves and look at a real business model for farming, but also develop lands in Clackamas County, where most of the proceeds and the profits have gone to Washington County. I fought like the dickens to get some of the CHIP money. I had landowners begging me, Tootie, we're ready to go, we can do this. I was on the phone with the governor, the legislative leaders. You know, it was all one big backstop. Everything went to Washington County. Boy, is that a surprise. Intel's already located over there. What about spreading the wealth to the rest of the counties? There's a few that went up the gorge to Pendleton. Thank you, Pendleton. At least they got something. But we're located, we have the best, Clackamas County, we have airports, we have railroad, we have several freeways that we can transport the goods. So we're going to still fight for that to get the best prosperity for our citizens of Clackamas County. Any other commissioners? Go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, I'd like to. The governor's recent housing task force estimated that the state of Oregon was short 140,000 housing units as of today. And Clackamas County, being 10% of the state's population, one could estimate that we're short at least 14,000 houses. The KGW news report from 4 days ago said that for somebody who wanted to buy a house in Portland, to keep their income at 30% of the income going towards housing, they would need to have an increase in their income by $65,000 today over 2020 income levels. That's how steep prices on housing is going in our region. And the more we struggle to help people with rental assistance, supportive housing, and all these things we have going on, the more we end up taxing the very people who are struggling to try to save money to buy a house. Our young people are getting further and further behind every month in being able to save the money that's needed to buy a house. Also, every time we pass a new tax, every time your electricity bill goes up, your gas bill goes up, your water bill goes up, and of course every year we see property taxes go up, that essentially adds to the cost of paying for a house, a mortgage. Now, in Clackamas County, we have done a few things to try to attract new builders and development by deferring system development charges over time. But we need to be able to look at supply and demand. Land inside the urban growth boundaries is 4 to 8 times as expensive as land outside of urban growth boundaries, and that means housing projects don't pencil out for the developer and the builder. So, the big impediment in the state is Senate Bill 100 from 1973, which imposed urban growth boundaries around all our cities, instituted Metro in its urban growth boundary. We're the first state in the nation to do that, and now, 51 years later, the land inside the urban growth boundaries is more restrictive. What is available for development is more difficult to develop. We need relief from Senate Bill 100 from 1973. Finally, the idea behind Senate Bill 100 was to prevent the state of Oregon from becoming an Orange County or a Marin County or many other counties in the nation that saw explosive growth after the Second World War. Oregonians didn't want to see that. But now, 51 years later, we are restricted by this bill. And finally, let me just add that the idea to build housing developments that look like the 1950s paradigm of the single-family house on a quarter acre is no longer economically viable. We need people, we need our planning to work on a new paradigm for the integration of residential projects with new commercial, industrial projects for jobs, and combining that with new development for highways and other infrastructure, sewer, etc. All these things have to happen. And again, with land as costly as it is, we're never going to achieve our goals.
And I might add, Mark, one of the other costs that have gone up that people don't recognize, because it's not talked about a lot, is the cost of insurance. Homeowners insurance policies have probably gone up over 20% in the last year or two. And one of the main causes is wildfire threats.
Yep.
Some people can't even get insurance for their homes any longer. The insurance companies in those rural communities are just canceling them because the threat is just so large. And then also there's some other things, I won't go into a lot of detail, but there's a recent settlement with the Realtors Society nationwide so that the sellers no longer pay the buyer's agent their commission. So a buyer of a new home now may be the one who pays their agent their commission. On a $500,000 home, we're talking thousands of dollars that they've got to come up with up front to cover their down payment plus the buyer's commission. Well, that doesn't work. So anyway, there's just a lot of headwinds that I've been in the real estate community for 40 years. Back when I started in the early 80s, I could get a project approved in 6 months. And now it's 6 years? You don't know. There's just so many unknowns. But I know we're all working on it, and that's a positive thing. We're all aware of it, and we're all focusing on it. Kind of switching topics here. Recently, the County Commission made some changes in their positions on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Would you like to share the reasonings behind that, and have there been any repercussions from that? I'll let anybody speak.
We had a department out of the administrative office that handled DEI work. That department was mandated to handle specific reporting that was required by law, and none of that was actually happening. And so Gary, under his administrative function, was able to restructure that office into the HR department and make sure that that reporting function continued. And I think we wanted to make clear, at least in Clackamas County, that everybody in the organization is valued and welcome, that we promote equality, fairness, and merit in Clackamas County, that your immutable traits are not what define you, but your character is. And we wanted to make sure that we were promoting that value system in Clackamas County, and so that's why we made those adjustments. And we wanted to make sure that it was a place where everyone felt welcome, and I feel like we've done that, and we were able to navigate that well.
Okay. Anyone else?
I would just like to add that we do have a diversity Economic Development Advisory Committee, all of that. So we're still working directly with our advisory group. I know that I attend those meetings, and also I attend meetings throughout the county with other groups that look at DEI as something that is important to them and to our communities. So having those external voices is also an important piece to help inform how we move forward as a county. I want to tell people, in my mind, it has not. DEI has not gone away in our county. One of the biggest examples I use, which I think is interesting, and this goes to our folks who are in the nonprofit sector here helping folks, we gave a considerable amount of money. This is one of my examples to the Canby Center. I believe it was ARPA dollars. And I see their work as serving an underserved community, largely Hispanic, as what I would call diversity, equity, and inclusion work on the ground. And that means they do financial literacy, they do reading literacy, they get people housing, they get them clothing, you have a food pantry. And we looked at all the services that they were, and they're a faith-based organization, which I'm personally fine with, because I think that that's an important framework for people, and they're doing a fantastic job. So what I bring it down to when I talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion is what's the outcome that you want to have happen on the ground? Okay, if it is really to make sure that people who have not had the opportunity to move up a prosperity ladder for whatever reason, maybe have been marginalized, things of that sort, you give them that opportunity to do so. And so to me, that's the example of what we need to be doing in our county is actually partnering more with our nonprofits that do that kind of work for people. Sometimes we get too caught in what I call the left-right arguments about all this kind of stuff, and my theme is not left, not right, but forward. And I just want to see on-the-ground outcomes so people get what they need. And I feel strongly about it because I lived in Canby for many years, and at the time, our Hispanic community was not being served as well as they could be. And I did a lot of that service work with the Benedictine Sisters of Mount Angel, and now I'm seeing the whole community now getting involved in that. So I think that's a good thing. So when you talk about, look at the outcomes that you want, and I call them prosperity initiatives. So that's just my take on it.
All right, thank you, Martha. We appreciate that. Question for you, Paul. Recently, the I-2 or the I-5 project near the Rose Quarter received approximately $450 million from the federal government to help in their infrastructure package because of the impacts that it had in those communities and neighborhoods when the freeway went through. With the infrastructure package that was passed recently by the federal government, can Clackamas County apply for any of those funds for our I-205 widening?
Thank you for the question, Ken. So a little bit of background on the first part. There's a constitutional limit on what gas tax or road dollars can be spent on, and the Albina community that was divided essentially when I-5 was built, and what they are trying to build is putting a cover or a lid over I-5 in the Rose Quarter area, so to rebuild that community. However, by the Constitution, that's not allowed to be used with gas tax dollars, so the federal grant was not a transportation grant, it was a community rebuilding grant, so essentially, and it's going to take more than that. It's about $1 billion some odd dollars to build that cover, and that's been part of the holdup because they want to do this all in one fell swoop. You got to build all of it, the infrastructure, so it's going to be partly funded with road dollars. I'm not sure where that's going to come from yet, and also built with community dollars. And I understand there's other grants, private sector grants that might come in and help build that $1 billion plus lid over the I-5 corridor. Can Clackamas County, second question, can Clackamas County apply for a grant? Technically, on the interstate, no, the state has to do it. And oddly, we've had some experiences in the past where we wanted the state to apply, and a couple times they have. We haven't been successful, and now there's a roundup again, and we asked ODOT to apply for the grant, and they have declined. to apply for that grant. So I don't know if they have another grant in play for some of the other projects. I do know that we have a governor that is a Portland resident, believes strongly in Portland, and obviously very, very public that she wants to see Portland rebuilt. Number one is image, the businesses, all the issues that are facing Portland. So I don't think it's an awesome time for Clackamas right now. I think it's an awesome time for Portland.
That is not what this audience wanted to hear.
Sorry.
But I can't imagine being unwilling to apply for federal grants. It doesn't cost the state governor's budget $1 to receive federal money. And if I understand correctly, bridges were a specific component of the infrastructure bill that was approved in Congress. Well, that's a bridge. So why would they not want to take advantage of that?
Well, just one thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't say it. One of the big focuses for the state and the state legislature and the transportation committee is the I-5 bridge, right? And we talked about the Rose Quarter just now, but really we got what, $1 billion? I forgot how many millions we got for that project. But that's only just a drop. I won't say a drop in the bucket. It's still a big chunk, but we still have a lot of money to make up. And that tolling scheme was the RMPP part of the tolling scheme was to help fund that. So the governor's still talking about tolling the I-5 interstate bridge to fund that, but we don't really exactly know how they're going to get that project across the finish line. But I think if they apply for a grant, they're probably going to apply for the one they want, and not so much maybe another one that might be ancillary to our infrastructure region.
All right, moving on.
Sorry.
As you know, Clackamas County is a large county with very diverse communities, neighborhoods, cities, municipalities, from some of the wealthiest cities in Lake Oswego, Westland, and Happy Valley, to also, unfortunately, some of the poorest communities throughout the state. We've also seen recently in Congress the push to go ahead and retire certain amounts of student debt based upon qualifications. What is the county doing to help educate students in rural high schools who these kids may have skills to become a plumber, a carpenter, an electrician, a welder, and they don't necessarily want to take on all that college debt? Are there programs in place today and are planned for the future in the rural communities? Ben, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I'll be real transparent with you guys. I'm assuming I'm the only one on this panel that has an enormous amount of student loan debt. And is about to have my son is about to graduate high school from West Lynn, and we're having this real conversation about how do you set up your future moving forward. Do I want my son to be prepared for the workforce? But how does he find the best way to do that, to set up for his future, right? There are a number of opportunities, as we all know, for my son could go to Clackamas Community College potentially for very little money. He could learn a trade and a skill. He would come out of school with no debt, and he would have the ability to immediately, maybe one day open his own business as he develops that skill in one of the trades. We've worked really, really hard with AMR to set up scholarship opportunities for paramedics as we have a workforce crisis there. Very innovative programs that we partner with them on. That you graduate from that job, you're in the high 70s, and a few years in, you could be six figures as a paramedic on an ambulance. And we really need good paramedics in Clackamas County, really badly. So if you know anybody, we have scholarship programs through AMR for them to get through school. I serve in the United States Navy. I'm an officer in the Navy, and for some young men and women, that was a wonderful pathway through our OTC, through the GI Bill, for them to help cover some of their expenses. But I don't think my son graduating from PSU with a degree in basket weaving or philosophy, all really great studies, necessarily is going to be more than a credentialed piece of paper framed hanging in his office while maybe he works at a job that doesn't help him pay the bills. So I think we talk about this all the time with workforce. I know Commissioner Schrader does. We are working in the legislature to figure out creative ways to make licensure easier. So one of the ways that we've been having this conversation is down in Salem. How do we make maybe a captive workforce like corpsmen in the military who have some trauma training, bridge program quickly into a paramedic school, get them on an ambulance quickly, an innovative way that we're not seeing in other states. So, and how do we like work with OHA to like make licensure more easy? And the healthcare field with behavioral health, I see Brandy nodding her head, like how do we get, have some reciprocity within our licensure from state to state? How do we join different compacts that make it cheaper and easier for people to become working professionals? So we're having these conversations. A lot of it's through workforce development and things like that. But I, as a dad, don't want my kid to have my debt. I also don't expect anyone else to pay for it. I signed up for it.
Thanks.
You know, I that's just my personal opinion. I signed up for that. And we'll figure it out as a family. But I think there's a better pathway that my son doesn't have to stay in that same cycle that we've seen burden a lot of young people.
In addition to the scholarships Commissioner West mentioned, Commissioner Schrader mentioned earlier, we just approved $100,000 of scholarships to Clackamas Community College for certificate programs, not for 4 years, because we want to see the workforce develop out, a 3-month certificate, a 9-month, something like that, for the trades and medical. I was told by the president there that basically they have somebody from Providence Hospital parked out at the door waiting for the next graduates to come out. And we're talking phlebotomists, or we're talking, really the basic level medical care. And when I was over at the college with Dr. Cook, he was telling me about a very exciting program they're doing at the college right now. And you asked, what are we doing to get out into the, he is taking two of these development programs and actually going out to Molalla High School and taking their programs with their machines out to Molalla High School and teaching them on campus. Because what he realized is that people aren't able to travel in transportation to the college. And that was a big eye-opener for me. And then we went back and upped our scholarship program from $70,000 to $100,000. And that's really important. But per se on education, the Board of County Commissioners really does not fund or legislate or do policy for K-12 education. And we get asked this question a lot lately. I'm not sure why. So what we can do is we can nibble around the edges on workforce development, realizing that there's a young workforce coming up, and let's grab them. And let's give them an opportunity to get skills and make some money and become self-sufficient.
Yeah, and we really are fortunate to have Clackamas Community College right here in our backyard. It truly is an amazing resource to provide that type of employment opportunity. Martha?
Yeah, I do serve on Clackamas Workforce Partnership. I've been the workforce commissioner for a while. I missed the meeting this morning because of this, but that's another story. You can ask me afterwards. But one of the things that I think you have to understand about workforce, it's a system, and there's really no wrong door. Okay, we have, for instance, Sabin Schellenberg High School here that does technical CTE, technical career education with kids. We also have a node up here in Oregon City High School. Do we directly fund that? No. But as a workforce, part of the workforce board, you have to understand that as part of a larger system. We have Clackamas Community College that does a fantastic job, so vote for their bond to re-up it. I'm going to put a plug in for them. They have been champions in healthcare, getting nurses out to our hospital systems for kids. They've been a champion with their new manufacturing center. The other entity that does fantastic work that is extremely innovative is basically Oregon Tech in Wilsonville, which is co-located with Clackamas Community College. college. So what you really want to do is get high school kids, rural, urban, wherever they are, and you have to get to the school system with, frankly, the advisors that they have, and either get them into a high school program ASAP or start talking to them about what their opportunities are in the bigger world. Oregon Tech, like I said earlier, has got the biggest return on investment, but usually kids start out in a community college, PCC or there, and then move on to that. And those kids make book. I mean, when they get out, there are jobs waiting for them. The other entity that we have here regionally that we need to be paying attention to is the Oregon Manufacturing Innovation Center. What the business community has done is Boeing is involved in it, our large manufacturers. It's located in Scappoose, but you actually have the businesses there on the campus that help frame the training that the kids get. So, for example, if Boeing has a need for machinists, they have a huge machinist program there. They get kids trained, and what is happening is these larger entities, these traded sector businesses, these kids are getting jobs directly with the companies because the companies know that they've got the site where they're trained and ready to go. Interestingly enough, I have to tell you this was Betsy Johnson's idea. Senator Johnson, we met a guy from Sheffield, Dr. Adrian Allen, Sheffield, England. I got to visit their campus. That's where the model came from. In Sheffield, their poverty rate was like insane. And the whole community in that area of England, which was a coal community, was suffering. What they did there was bring in the big businesses, the nuclear industry, the industries that deal with fiber optics, you name it. They located them there. They built a training center. And again, so those industries would get the kids trained right there and immediately get to jobs. I like to tell people I got a chance to see it firsthand because my daughter lives in England. But the fact that we were able to transplant that model here to Oregon and Scappoose and have it be part of our regional opportunity for workforce for kids to get good jobs and older adults that need the jobs has been a phenomenal success. And I think that we need to get that out there more because what it is amazing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Martha.
Kent, one more thing on that, and that is that people need to know that on the average, 42.5 cents for every dollar paid in property taxes is collected by the county and sent to the state for redistribution down to our school districts. And we're one of the highest states per capita in costs for K-12, and unfortunately, for decades, we've been at number 48 or 49 out of 50 in terms of effectiveness in high school graduation. And I think we cannot pay our way to better schools. We're already maxed out on cost. You know, the governor appoints in this state, the governor appoints the state superintendent of schools, and the governor also appoints everybody on the state school board. And those are the people who have the ability to redesign K-12 expenditures and to shape classes to support today's needs in the business community and make sure our young people have an option, like Commissioner Schrader said, to enter the trades within just a few years, maybe exceeding $100,000 a year. And our Clackamas Community College, they're already doing a great job in shifting to meet the needs of the business community. And so our high schools can do the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's just going to take the leadership at the state level.
I agree 100%. Thank you, Mark. Okay, we don't have a lot of time left, but I did want to ask one last question of each of you. What do you feel has been your greatest accomplishment while you've been serving as a Clackamas County Commissioner?
Well, if I may.
Sure.
You know, I spent a lot of time in the office, and I feel a lot of phone calls from constituents. I need to speak to a commissioner on a permit issue or a zoning issue or a county code issue. You know, the greatest satisfaction I get from being a commissioner is working with the constituents of a problem and need a commissioner to step in to help clarify something or to get the proper staff member involved to fix a problem. That's what I really enjoy doing.
Great, great. And we appreciate your insistence in solving those problems. Martha, why don't we let you go next?
Well, I have to go back a few years, and for me, it's still veterans issues. And I really respect Commissioner Shull for his service, and I try to tell you that as frequently as possible. But what was happening in this county was that we were seeing deployments from Camp Ithaca to Iraq and Afghanistan, and people were coming back with no reintegration services. So we worked with Withicum, we worked with Clackamas Community College. The Governor Kulongoski appointed me to his Veteran Services Committee to deal with this problem, so I worked with the National Guard and the Army Reserve. I don't think we had the Navy. I didn't think I worked with the Navy Reserve, my friend, but to really see what we needed to do to get the veterans who are coming back from these war zones reintegrated into the local economy and into the community. A lot of times with the Guard, they'd come back, they'd be on the base for 3 days, and then suddenly they're out. And, once and what I've learned, I've never had that experience like Commissioner Shull has, but you come back and you're kind of in a war zone, hypervigilance, all that kinds of stuff that goes along with it. And then you get back and suddenly you're expected to. So we worked really hard to make sure that we came up with legislation for reintegration. And that was when I left the commission for a couple of years and went down to Salem, and I was chair of the Veterans Committee. And then I came back here because I like local government better. But that was an opportunity to really help our folks. And Clackamas Community College, because of their work, is an award-winning leader in veterans education in the state and the United States. And they came together with us and Shelley Perini, who's a dear friend of mine, and Laura's. And we also pulled together a veteran service piece there that is still one of the strongest in the country. And the only reason that I'm coming back at this point is I wanted to work on childcare. I mean, that was a big legacy, but there's some other legacy projects I'd like to finish. And one is trying to figure out childcare deserts. The other one is the recovery center. And maybe continuing to work on the workforce system. I just got appointed to the Workforce Talent and Advisory Board at the state level, so we're looking at the whole system there. So it's just some stuff that to me still stands out as the most important thing, but there's other things I want to try and finish up before I fade into the sunset here. So there you go.
Great, and we truly appreciate all your years of public service, Martha.
Yeah.
Paul?
Yeah, as I think about what's really important today, because being around a while, I have, with my colleagues, past and present, we've done a lot. We've done a lot of good things. But the one I think that's really on topic today that paid off was about 10 years ago, and I wasn't on the commission longer than that, but about 10 years ago, I started looking into this, foreseeing this homeless crisis that we're having, and which led to where do we get funding, how do we serve people that are homeless, and so forth. So the Veterans Village concept was not just about veterans themselves, but there were some resources there that were unique because Veteran Services in the VA provide, in the ODVA, the Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs, provide funding. So there was a way to get there. But the whole concept, at least for me personally, and I think my colleagues and Martha, I appreciate your vote on that back then, but way back, the idea is how to do it and how to do it right to where you get community acceptance, make a model, because if you go in and you start one and it fails, that will haunt the county for a long time. So we had to get it right. And I would say that has really paved the way for a lot of successes today. We've learned a lot, so we've had the internal infrastructure and the experiences and the community infrastructure that has helped with that. And we have learned a lot, and we've built, whether people realize it or not, there are formal coalitions and our informal coalitions that are working on this crisis we have. So I would probably say today the one that's paying the biggest dividends is the Veterans Village.
Okay, great, appreciate it. Ben?
Which we're expanding, by the way.
We are.
That's
Not
even-
the Veterans
that's
Village
even better.
itself, but we're building another shelter here pretty soon, so look out for that.
Well, you keep us updated on that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's hard to keep up. So most of you guys know this. I'm a nurse by trade, and so coming into this job, the county gets to deal with public health issues and health policy issues in a way that when I was at the city level in Wilsonville, that's not usually the city's scope. But it is at the county, and the county has, you're right, the oldest housing authority in the state. We have a very robust housing and human services department. And I, was caring for the population that is struggling with substance abuse disorder and homelessness all the time, all night long. And it was very challenging. But I really care about policy. I really care about being able to reach that population. So being the newest commissioner here, being able to be a nurse and a county commissioner and blend the two together and then see the outcomes that we're having have been quite fulfilling for me. When I see us actually impacting everyday lives in a meaningful way, working with partners like Love One and Father's Heart and my fellow commissioners, being inspired and stepping out of our own kind of bubble and going to San Antonio with Commissioner Schrader and seeing New Haven for Hope and being inspired about things that we can do here. And now we're talking about this innovative recovery campus. I look forward to doing that. So the work that I've been able to do and the leadership I've been able to bring to the county in that space, and one of the most refreshing things is with my colleagues here, it really has been an amazing team effort with all of us, and we don't always get along on every issue. We don't always agree on every issue because that would be boring and weird. But we work together, and we have got really great outcomes in this county, and so I've learned a lot from my colleagues, and so but being able to be a nurse for this county in this capacity has been quite fulfilling.
Yeah, and we are very appreciative of your years of service as well. Chair Smith?
Well, I'm glad I'm going last because I had time to think about my answer.
And you get to have all the time you want.
Oh, well, folks want to go.
Okay.
So, for me being chair, I think my role was a little bit different. I feel like in my tenure as chair, almost 4 years now, I've served in 2 different counties. Because 1 month after I became chair, we were under 3 declared emergencies at the same time. Mm-hmm. We had COVID, we were cleaning up from the wildfire, and then we had a brand new ice storm in Clackamas County that was almost as bad as the firestorm. And so with the help of our staff, we managed to get through it all. We had the challenge of bringing back a 2,400 people workforce to county offices, getting them back, getting them off Zoom, reintegrating that. That was very difficult, and deliver services at the same time all this is happening. And that wouldn't have been possible to deliver services under 3 declared emergencies had it not been for our staff and our dedicated people who work for Clackamas County because they have a spirit of service. Wouldn't be possible to do anything that the county commissioners want. And then you move forward, and all of a sudden, with this huge homeless crisis that just ballooned. Well, through this, we had to set goals. And one of my goals, and thankfully the commissioners, we all agreed, was to rebuild our aging structures in Clackamas County. We are the oldest county in the state. You know, we became a county in 1843 when there was a provisional government and wasn't even in statehood yet. And some of our buildings reflect that. So not only were we able to build the courthouse, we have replaced a lot of old buildings in the county through sound and wonderful fiscal management without raising taxes. And I am able to do that because of our crack staff. And what I was able to bring to this job was my legislative experience. I served 4 years in the legislature on Ways and Means. And at times I hated that. I was young, and I said, why am I here? It'd be 8:30 in the morning, you'd run till 5 o'clock. I says, I need to get out of here, and now I know why. I learned how government budgets work. I learned how they don't work. I learned how monies can be slipped away and forgotten about, frankly. I learned what a core service is, and we've tried to adopt a budget that looks at core county services to deliver the best services that our people demand, and we really have defined what that means. So I think going forward, we're going to continue on a lot of that work, and I want to continue to build in Clackamas County and help our people be the most prosperous and happy as they can. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And on behalf of the Oregon City Business Alliance, I personally want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. Hats off to the Abernathy staff again for doing a great job on the buffet today. They truly are the best. Thank you.